Good morning, everybody. This is Pete Najarian, and this is The Take on a Thursday, the final trading day of the week. Let's not forget about that. So that just one last reminder about the fact that obviously with Easter Sunday coming and Good Friday, we will have a closed day on Friday. So because of that, this is the final trading day of the week. And when we look at this week, it is a historic week with unbelievable explosive moves and really a huge push to the upside this week. It's been absolutely undeniable. Now, we've had a day that was really extreme when we go back to Tuesday, where we lost all of those gains in a hurry. And that big move to the downside really was triggered by the price of oil. As oil declined, the market absolutely declined with it. Now, yesterday, completely different story. We started off a little bit stronger. We started to move to the upside, and we really started to explode to the upside because I think tied to two things, really. Oil definitely being one, and Bernie Sanders stepping down, making some clarity to who the Democratic presidential candidate is, obviously Joe Biden. I think a lot of that and what Bernie maybe brought to the table, that combination, really a lot of folks were adding in the Bernie aspect of it. But I think really when you're watching the price of oil, that really has been a huge directive. Now, the price of oil yesterday had a pretty nice move to the upside. We're talking about well over 11%, and it really dragged the big energy names along this time. Now, we bring up the beta names all the time, and yesterday I talked about the Chevrons and the Exxon were moving. They really did take off. They really got up and moved really rapidly to the upside later in the session as they moved all the way up to finish up about 6%, give or take. But those beta names definitely are the performers. When I look at Apache up 16%, Occidental up 12%, that really says a lot. Plus, it hasn't been just a story about crude oil. It's also been the materials space where we've seen huge moves there as well. So when you look at the materials, utilities up about 5%, but you know what's been lagging? The real lagger really has been technology, and technology had been the leader. And we looked for it to be the leader time and time again recently, but we haven't really seen that. Well, we've talked about some of these dislocations in terms of the NASDAQ versus the performance of the S&P and the Dow and that type of thing. Yesterday, NASDAQ finished up about 2.5%, but you look at the S&P and the Dow, that was up over 3.5%. And I look right now, where did we really finish up in terms of tech? Up under 3%. We were up about 2.5%. But the real strength as we shifted away from that has been airlines, casinos. Look at some of these cruise ships. They just continue this huge move to the upside. The area where we weren't seeing much strength at all yesterday, it really was focused on some of those Chinese names. So the very direct names and those that are affiliated very closely with China, those were the names that were not really participating. As a matter of fact, you look at the Hang Seng, really underperformed relative to what our performance was yesterday. It completely different. Now, this morning we had the jobless numbers, the jobless claims, and everybody knew the numbers were not going to be very pretty. And the second those numbers came out, lo and behold, what happened? The government stepped in. And we heard from Chairman Powell about exactly how they were going to step in, and they stepped in a big way. When I say stepped in, how about $2.3 trillion stepping in? And the funding for households, local governments, all of that. We flipped from being down, call it 200 points. And now this all happened at about almost the exact same time when we got the jobless numbers and this announcement. So the combination of both, when we're down 200 points, and all of a sudden we're up 500 points in a matter of a flash. And then look over at crude oil. That was up about 5% early on. Technology, once again, lagging. And as we've gotten into the trading session, technology continues to really lag. When I look over at the XLK and it's trading up maybe 0.5%, maybe a little bit more, I look at energy up over 4%, utilities up over 3 or 4%, airlines extremely strong. But the real winner right now is the financials. When I look at the financials and some of the huge option paper that we had seen yesterday. Now, early on when we had the take, I talked about some of that option paper, and the option paper really focusing on a name we talked about how unusual it was because we don't see this name ever. And when I looked back, I could not find in the archives that we had ever had unusual option activity in Mr. Cooper. Coop, C-O-O-P. But We did have that option activity out there. It was out into the May, and that stock is exploding this morning, along with many of the financials across the board. But as we got further into the trading session, we had unusual option activity in some other names as well. I mean, add in Citi, Bank of America, Avaya, across the board, very, very bullish, and in some cases, extremely large option paper. Bank of America was well out of the money, very inexpensive, but very large size. Citi, very large size. Avaya, a name that does come up here and there, but it's not the most common name that hits our unusual activities. That was really something that was staggering as well. I'm looking right now, early on, Mr. Cooper's up only about 15%. Now, what I ended up doing there was I did not end up being in the options. I decided that the better trade for me was buying the stock, selling some options against that. So that's the position in full disclosure. Before I came on, I hadn't had a position, but I said I would. That is the position that I ended up putting on. So what are we seeing today? Gold also moving to the upside in a big way, back up over, not only over 1,700, we're talking 1,735. It's up over 3%. Silver pushing towards 16. Oil now, after being up about 4 or 5%, now up about 12%, over $28 a barrel. I talk about some of these beta names. You want to talk about performance. How about Apache? Apache, last I looked, was trading about 25% or more higher this morning. So really, when we're looking at the oil and we look at the financials, really seeing a lot of explosive moves in many, many names there. Now, we talk about unusual option activity. I always love to give you a quick teaser of what I find to be the most interesting to now. And as I'm looking at the clock, we're only about 90 minutes into the trading session. I had a lot of choices today. Some of those back in the financial world, some of those in other areas. I talked about materials. I'm going to give you a materials today. I'm going to give you Freeport-McMoRan. And this is what I'm seeing in Freeport-McMoRan. So this stock has hit multiple times, stock trading anywhere between 6.25 and call it 7.25. It's been very, very consistently bullish option paper in there through the month of March. And let's not fool ourselves. Month of March, as we talked about, has been an extremely volatile market, very difficult. Obviously, the moving and back and forth, well, we hadn't seen a lot of moves in a real positive way yet until now. And now we're looking at an explosive move to the upside out of those materials over the last couple of sessions. And as I'm looking now, we see that Freeport-McMoRan, while we saw the unusual option activity, was trading a little over $8, about $8.30, maybe $8.35. Just a week and a half ago, on a Friday, they were buying, so almost 2 weeks ago, they were buying the June 7 calls. Well, those have doubled since that buy of 5,000 of those. They've doubled. They were being sold today and then rolling some of those profits, not everything, but some of those profits into the June 9 calls. So 5,000 of the June 9 calls were rolled up from those June 7 calls that they bought back on the 25th of March. So that's a very smart trade, because we talk about smart trades all the time, and those are the ones that we are looking for, that we like to follow along with. When I see the huge volatility that's out there and we talk about spreading off some of that risk, those that are doing that, that's a smart trade. When I see other trades like this where it's somebody who's taking some profits, but they still want to be in a trade and they're still looking for the upside, but they're taking some of those profits off the table, that's a smart trade. So those are the kinds of trades that we like to follow along with, we like to look at. So let me give you a real quick update. We are trading presently up about 350 points on the Dow, so 1.5%. The NASDAQ is up less than 0.5%. It's up 30 points right now. Meanwhile, the S&P up about 1.5% as well, up about 40 points. So the volatility index today trading right in line with where it closed last night. So it's been wavering around near up or down, but basically let's call it 43 for the VIX. We did see volumes start to come back down again yesterday. Maybe not so crazy because of the fact that we got the long weekend and into holiday weekends. We oftentimes will see volume starting to pull back. Didn't know necessarily that we would, based upon what's going on in the markets right now and what's affecting these markets, but we did see some of that yesterday. We'll see if that continues today as we head into the weekend. Guys, don't forget, tonight, actually, I'm going to be joining Ryan. We're going to be talking about a lot of those interesting trades that Ryan is seeing in the marketplace for Market Rebellion as well. This guy has been killing it. You're going to want to tune in for that. This is the Market Rebellion, folks. Have a great day of trading. And if we don't see you, have a great weekend as well.